Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today, we are joined by someone who has spent nearly 2 decades at the intersection of engineering, leadership, and company building. Stephen Wooten is a seasoned CTO and a co-founder who has helped build and scale engineering teams across some of the most fast-moving companies in insurtech and fintech. In this episode, we will dig into one of the most important conversations happening in tech right now: how AI is changing the way software gets built and why most companies are getting it wrong. If you ever wonder whether AI is actually making your team better or just faster and making mistakes, this conversation is for you. Stephen, great to have you here in the show and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, Stephen, please tell us a little bit about you and your background so people get to know you.
Yeah. Well, I started in my engineering career in high school and college, just programming, taking some courses, C++, Java. But it wasn't until doing my own startup that I really got into web development and software entrepreneurship. So that was something like 18 years ago. And I've done everything from my own startups to working at really large companies like Groupon. And then more recently, when we met, I was a co-founder at Kin Insurance. And currently, I'm the VP of engineering at a stealth company that is doing financial auditing services.
Great. So AI is changing a lot this time. How are you actually using AI to build software right now as the VP of engineering?
I think one of the ways that I think about bringing AI into organizations is that you need to approach it from not just engineering in terms of building products. And specifically, what we're doing here is trying to use AI across the entire company and really trying to push everyone to be responsible for learning how to incorporate AI into their workflows and processes. So, we have an expectation that everyone at the company knows how to prompt LLMs, and maybe they aren't the best at it, but we need everyone to be thinking along the same lines, which is, AI is going to be the one that is doing the job. So you need to decouple yourself from being the one who does the task to being the one who designs the process and system that AI then accomplishes and achieves the task. So that itself is a big shift in how people think about their own roles, their own values. And there's enough in there to warrant an entire conversation. But I think one of the things that we've done as an example of just using AI to change how people think is we wanted to, from day one, instill some of these ideas. So we built an onboarding skill that every new employee calls when they start. And that helps, I don't know how many of your viewers work at startups, but onboarding is one of those things that generally sucks at most startups because nobody has time to organize and standardize onboarding. And my perspective is this is one of the first impressions that you can make on a new hire to say, hey, look, we have our processes together and we want to have a good impression. So they run onboarding and it has a standardized process to say, this is our company, this is what we care about, here's the vision. It also articulates, how they can possibly think, it's more than just simple like chatbot, which if you have some experience, it's probably through a chat interface. But we introduced some other concepts, which are just like, hey, you can query a database just with natural language and can that change how you think about how you use AI in your everyday? In the future, we can say, cool, set up your Google Calendar through part of this process. And you can then start to see how integrations with other systems, you can just start to connect the dots. And that's on day one. So, that's an example of more general cultural shifts that we've made at the company, because we are AI native. That's currently the term that companies use. I don't love it, but this is part of who we are. You need to embed it in your DNA. Um, so
Yeah, so you're not just using it for development, yeah, you're using like across the whole company, and that's really good because I think actually AI it's improving the performance of everyone, not just developers. And
mhm.
where do you see most companies going wrong with the use of AI?
I think it's kind of like maybe two different options. One of them is if they have custom software. I guess let's start with maybe just starting with engineering. A lot of companies might just say, okay, well, I bought a Copilot license or a Cursor, and most of the engineers that I've spoken with, during hiring, most of them are just still at this kind of like first level where they're using Cursor and they're prompting, but they're they're still trying to adhere to the old ways of working, which is, you'll hear AI assisted coding. And that's just kind of like dipping your toe in the waters of what AI can do, and how it can transform how your employees think. Um, so a lot of, specifically engineering will just be still writing code. They'll still take a lot of pride in reading every single line of code and say, okay, yeah, but maybe it was at the function level. They'll say, hey, Claude or Cursor, I want to build a function that takes these parameters, build out the implementation. And I think that's a problem because they're still sticking with this old mindset of like, this is how we did it in the past. This can accelerate me a little bit, but I still want to be in control. So that's on the engineering side. And I think in terms of the organization side, it just could be like bolting on AI, like, hey, we need to uh, be with the trend. So let's just try and buy some AI solutions and force them to our employees. And there's no larger organization change to really help the employees shift how they're thinking. It's here's a new tool, use it because we need to use AI. And I think that's problematic culturally, because then it's almost like it's management at odds with the employees. Just use this tool. They're like, how? Where's the training? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think some companies like are using it like as a marketing tool. Like we use AI, we are AI native. I remember a lot of waves like that. I remember when I used to work at IBM a lot of years ago, there was this trend of blockchain, and I remember like meeting with people, and then they were like, "Hey, I want a blockchain project, and for what? I don't know, but everybody is doing so. Give me some
Mhm.
blockchain." It was so funny.
We just want to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that you have written about, Stephen, is the danger of shipping too fast. Do you think AI make that problem like worse?
Yeah, and I guess my argument about like shipping too fast is, I think, more about shipping the wrong things too fast. And I do think AI makes it worse because, when you think about the cost to build has been reduced, and I think one of the most important things that companies need to do in today's day and age with AI is to be even more ruthless with priorities. Because when everything feels so easy and quick to just be like, oh, like, yeah, we could build it. We could build it in a day. You compound the number of things that you build that might not actually be right. And, who cares how fast you move if you're moving in entirely the wrong direction? So the way that I see it is, you need, especially today, to be very ruthless in your priorities and say no to even more things, more so than before, AI was more commonplace.
Do you think like does this AI thing change how you build and hire an engineering team? And on top of that, if you think like an engineering role is actually changing.
Yeah, definitely. Um, with AI being moving to be the primary way in which we write code, uh, engineers need to ask themselves, like, where does my expertise come in? How do I continue to add value if I'm not the one writing code? And you really need to, kind of like I said before, be the one who is responsible for designing the system that the company that like you're the one to design the system that then produces the code for the company. um,
Yeah, and on top of that, Stephen, do you think like new next generation developers will need to know have more skills? I don't know if I should call it soft skills, but on the side of product development and know the business behind it, because I remember when I was younger, like the developer only had to know how to develop, and he had a ticket and he just had to develop that, and he didn't care what was going on in the rest of the company. And I think that's really changing, because when they are prompting, they have to know what for. So what are your
mhm.
thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. And even before AI, those were qualities that I've always looked for in my engineers, because it kind of comes back to the question about like shipping too fast, where it's, if a product manager gave you requirements for a feature that didn't make sense and you didn't push back on it, then you're building the wrong thing. So who cares how good the code was, right, if you're building the wrong thing? So I do think that there's going to be a merger between product and engineering. And if you don't need as many people writing code, then I think there's going to be consolidation. I mean, in general, I always think product engineering and design should always be at the table when making decisions. And I think there shouldn't be silos between those things. So I do think that in the future, if there are fewer engineers because we need fewer people to actually write code, then it's the ones who are employed are going to have these additional skills. You hear about, okay, well, does AI give us the ability to produce $1 billion company with a single person? If that's the case, then why hire a stable of engineers? You don't need it. And that means
Yeah,
they have to do more product.
yeah, and a follow-up question and on that, Stephen, is do you think AI actually help startups survive, or just move faster towards the wrong thing or the wrong path, or they are just moving faster to to hit a wall?
Yeah. I mean, I really view AI as a tool, almost like fire, where it's, when you use it well, fire can keep you warm, it cooks your food, but when it's used poorly, it could burn down your house. So it's just a tool, right? And it is up to us, the ones who are utilizing the tool, to do it in the right way. So, use it well, it can help you survive. Absolutely. But if you use it poorly, you burn down the house.
Yeah, And last question, Stephen, or more of a question and recommendation. What would you recommend to companies that they are starting this path? They know they have to start using AI. They don't know how. What would you recommend to them?
I always recommend to people to use it in more than just your professional setting. So try to use it across your life, because that's going to give you just a broader experience for how you could use it to solve problems, right? Like, it's a tool that, when used properly, can solve a lot of different problems. It is not just a way in which we write code. It is a way in which we solve problems. And by increasing the surface area of the types of problems that you're able to solve, I can think of, hey, okay, well, instead of, if I needed to schedule something on my calendar, you can look at your calendar and try to find a space. You can try to use AI. You can help it do, in Paris, in France, I've used it to help plan out itinerary. And then I think the really important piece is learning the edges of what AI can do well and what it doesn't do well. It's really important to understand kind of where's that line where it actually it's either bad or it gives you 80% of the results. Understanding that line so that you know how to apply it well, you know how to mitigate any problems, and then you just apply it to your professional setting. And it's just a different context. But that's usually what I tell people. Use it in more contexts, because you'll just get better using the tool.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephen. And I have a last one that is more on a personal side. Aren't you afraid of young generation using AI and losing a lot of skills that they should have? For example, the other day, I have this story, and it happened to me. I went to an ice cream place, and I saw this kid asking AI which flavor he should have, and it was like, whoa, this is crazy, because they are losing uh, thinking capabilities. So, how do you see that? And are you afraid of that in the next generations for
Yeah.
kids?
I yeah. I mean, I'm afraid for, I think, a lot of reasons, but that being one. I don't know what the solve is for that, but if you are outsourcing your thinking, then you're kind of dooming yourself. But I don't think that everyone will do that. And it's kind of back to your question of, like, you know, does AI help startups survive, and how it's just a tool, and when used well, it can help you, and when used poorly, it can be horrible. And if you are using it to think for you, then you're going to be in a lifetime of trouble, because you need to be the one thinking. You need to be the one using the tool, and not letting the tool tell you how to live your life. So, do I think that people will lose skills? Absolutely. But I think the key word that my brain hooks onto is, you said the word should, that they should have. I don't know if they should or shouldn't have it. Like, back in the day, you had to, you know, when you were programming, manage where you placed data in your computer's memory, right? So how you managed your memory was really, really important. I haven't had to worry about that since high school, like since C++ days.
Yeah.
So, but has that really been a problem? Like, not really. So I think that there are some problems that, we really care about, because we take pride in our work. We have like depth of understanding. But if models get to the point where it doesn't really necessitate the need to have that knowledge, because it just works in the same way that modern day languages kind of manage memory for us. I don't have that skill anymore. Does it matter? No, because there are other higher level problems that I can put my energy into, kind of like this idea of focusing on product, so how that evolves, I don't know, but it's a fair question, especially if you
Yeah.
take pride in your work.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and really appreciate your openness, Stephen, as always, and your time, and congratulations on your career path. It's been a great one. I met you like 5 years ago, I think, something like that, when you were at Kin, and it's been a roller coaster.
It has, yeah. And thank you for your time. It's been
Thank you very
great
much.
working. Yeah.
Thank you. And for you guys, let's see you in next episode, and thank you for being with us. Bye.